Donc en fait, cette présentation est tirée d'un projet de recherche sur les stratégies de production et de distribution. Sorry, I said I was going to speak in English. Okay, so so this presentation is from a project that I'm leading and that we've started a year ago, and it's a 3-year project on production and distribution strategies. And we are studying how those strategies are changing content and changing reception of TV series, so fictional TV series and films on platforms, on streaming platforms. And those streaming platforms are public, so national platforms, but also global, commercial and non-commercial. So the idea is to compare a bit the strategies of these platforms and how it influences content. And so the main question for this presentation is, how do public platforms remain relevant in a global streaming era? So the method that I employed here, so this is based on an article that I'm writing and that is almost finished. Is on expert interviews with the Norwegian broadcaster NRK, and a case study of one of their most watched series that was live in that was released in 2019 until 2023, and it's called Exit, and it has been watched by 2 million spectators. So that represents a third of the population of Norway, which is unprecedented, especially for the Norwegian public broadcaster. And also a review of a news article. So to present a bit the platform, so it's the Norwegian public funded television, so it's tax funded. So all content is free. The target audience, as they define it, is the population of Norway, so not only citizens, but everyone living in Norway. And that's also, when I talk to them, that's also how they understand diversity. So it's a diversity of catalog. They don't really understand diversity as every show should have diversity in it, but rather is the catalog diverse enough to cater for the whole population. So what they did to remain relevant in the global streaming era is to prioritize their streaming platforms. So NRK TV has been their first priority. If they are producing new content, it must be successful first on the streaming platform and then on linear TV if possible. So the platform infrastructure, whoops, how do I do this now? Probably have to. Yeah, so the platform infrastructure is very similar to Netflix. If you just browse at it, it's very, the appearance is very kind of Netflix similar. How do I go back now? Yeah. So what they did is or what they told me when I interrogated them about what streaming or what global streaming, how is it affecting them, they told me that it actually brought some positive effects, like the professionalization of creative teams in Norway. And also it kind of forces them to produce content that is popular. And so their way of remaining relevant is producing content that is consumed. So so it's good to have politically, like as one of the executives said, it's good to have politically correct content, but if nobody watches it, there's no purpose for this. So what they did with Exit in particular is to actually produce content that is very politically correct. So they produce very entertaining, popular content, but they remain the news channel. So it was actually considered like shocking content, and that's how the show became very, very popular. So this is a concept that Eva Redvall developed, which is double storytelling. So she talks about Danish public television, and it's about striking a balance between audiences' wants and audiences' needs. So that is like producing a show that has a global aesthetic, polished quality TV, but also producing something in the local language and with the local context. That is also something that Vilde Sunde is defining as popular enlightenment. So, or that we could qualify maybe as edutainment if we want to. So they try to have this balance. So that's whole my point here is that they try to strike a balance between having a very polished global aesthetic that users will consume and recognize from other global streaming platforms, but also remaining true to their public service values of informing the population or educating somehow, even through drama production, which is the only thing that I'm focusing on now is fiction. And actually what is very noticeable here is that the production and distribution platform, so the fact that this series was produced and distributed through the public service media is very relevant. So it really affected reception and it made the series much more popular than it would have been if it was on a commercial platform, a national commercial platform, because then people would, and that's what came out through the news articles I reviewed, is that people would have discarded it as pure entertainment. Was here, it was considered as for its journalistic value in a way. So this is the series, one of the images used. So it's about 4 white men, very rich white men, which is a surprising choice in 2019. So this choice was, so I was interested in the popularity of this series, especially in a kind of post-Me Too environment. And what they told me is that they were actually like targeting men. That men was the main target audience because television and drama especially is still considered as a feminine medium, or that it's most women that watch fiction on television. And so what they want to do is actually trying to have men watching drama as much as they watch news or sports, for example. I'm not sure they, well, according to the numbers, they didn't really succeed about that, but they tried. So what they did is that they provided anti-heroes. So they have like anti-heroes, troubled souls, very morally, legally questionable, and we can see that from the series that they are very. So the image on the right is one of the first images that you see of the main protagonist, and you can really see that he lives in a villa that is removed from society. He's above laws. He's above everyone else, and what you see is that he's framed through windows, he's framed from afar, and that's also kind of giving us a clue about what we are going to see about the series, is that they are kind of in the golden jail in a way. So they are bored with their own lifestyles, they can't, and one of the things that this character says from the beginning is that he has earned his first million when he was 30 years old, and now he's bored and he's trying to find like a kick from life. And he's struggling from that. And so another of the characters who tries to commit suicide 3 times during the show, and one of his first, so they are kind of reproducing, so what they did with this show as well is that 70% of all the, of everything that happens on screen is based on real stories. So it's based actually on interviews from 4 people in the finance industry who told them stories about how the finance industry is. And so what they did as well is that in the digests at the beginning, they have interviews with the characters to kind of reproduce and really comfort the audience in which, in the idea that this is based on a real story. And so, yeah, this character is very much framed within depression. And so what they are trying to do here is having strong men, in a way, having everything they want, showing like what old boys want, in a way, and having this boys' club with a lot of abuse of women, abuse of democracy, everything that you can imagine. But also at the same time trying to have men that are learning to, or that are going on a journey, unsuccessful journey, but trying to communicate their emotions, or trying to be on, I actually like this. It's more nuanced than that, and I'm going to come back to that. But so here we are very much into showing men's mental issue in a way. So yeah, so that's what I was just saying, and so I'm actually like working through working with Amanda Lott's book on cable guys from 2014, and in which she writes that those characters have the mental issues. They are not blaming women for it, but it's more a problematic relationship with their fathers. And so about old patriarchal values that are not applicable in today's society. So this is a bit what NRK is trying to do with in-between audiences once, so showing strong characters that have everything and the glamour of this life, but also audiences, like answering audiences' needs by showing characters that are trying to redefine a different kind of masculinity. And this is my hypothesis, is that because it's a streaming service, they are targeting young audiences, and so they don't really have a choice in a way of showing a different kind of model of patriarchy than they did before. But so what I was saying before as well is that it's a very limited reformulation of patriarchy, and what they are doing is very timid in a way, it's very shy compared to what, I hate to be comparing public services with Netflix, but Netflix sometimes have more progressive ideals than the public service in Norway, maybe because they know their local audiences and they kind of don't want to rush it, I'm not sure. But so the critique of misogyny and abuse of women is all through like a dark aesthetic and sarcastic dialogues, but there is, very limited strong women role in the whole series. So the revenge of women is very partial in a way, and the women and the men in the film don't actually go on a journey to redeem themselves at all. And what Amanda Lotz also says in the book on Cable Guys is that maybe the aesthetic, or maybe the film is too dark to actually reach a point of redemption. So maybe that was a conscious production choice of showing a world that is so dark and so abusive that there is no redemption for the characters, and that we can't, as audiences, we can't valorize them, or we can't value them. They have to stay anti-heroes, they have to stay characters that we can't empathize with. And so this is one of the scenes from one of the first season, where one of the characters, one of the most violent character, is shouting at a prostitute and telling her to lie down on a table with a golf tee and a ball in her mouth while he is playing golf on her, basically. And one of the other character is there in the background, kind of showing the negative, or showing, or reinforcing the negative aesthetic of the scene, but not saying anything. So so to conclude, actually the show, so the public platform, is still trying to, it's related to my question to Amanda Lutz this morning. The public service media is still trying to adjust between audiences' wants and audiences' needs. And so they are providing complex narrative choices and blending filmic genre, and through, for example, introducing some kind of thriller element and dark comedy element with also drama, and providing very complex characters. But what happened in between the first, so those are the numbers of viewing in thousands of numbers. So 2,400,000, and then for the first season, and then which came down to 1,600,000 for the third season. And that was 7 months after the third season was released. So that we can hypothesize that there won't be that many views after now. So there is a huge gap. So they lost almost 1 million viewers between the first and the third season. And actually the third season really focuses on the revenge of women, and we can see also in the lower range of the screen that so könsfördelning, that's the number of men and women that watch the show. So at the beginning there were like 54% of men that saw the first season, down to 48. So, and that's on million of viewers. So it's a significant difference between 54% of men and 52% of women in the third season. So they lost men's viewer to the profit of women, and the women's viewer came maybe, or stayed maybe in the third season because it was more focused on the revenge of women, but made in a way that was very clumsy, and through very far-fetched elements from the thriller genre, and very in agreement with Anarcho's kind of marque de fabrique. I don't know how to translate this. Trademark, yeah. Anarcho's trademark, which is providing moralistic punishments of the protagonists. And so all the protagonists, all the male protagonists get punished, but also in a way the women protagonists for making up evidence against her abuser. So, and also the third season is very characterized by repetitiveness of narrative, and we really embrace the boredom of those characters, and the audience become bored as well by the repetitiveness, of the narrative and of the parties and elements of the shows that we've seen through the 2 other seasons. I'm not sure that was a conscious choice, if it was a conscious narrative aesthetic choice or not, but the thing is, the public television is still trying to hit the right chord and try to find the right balance between looking for audiences' wants and having a global aesthetic, and trying to mix different genres in a similar way as the White Lotus, perhaps, with dark comedy and thriller elements and also drama, but really kind of a bit failing at it in a way. So they are still focusing on very much audiences' needs and public service media, which gives very moralistic kind of punishments of protagonists. That's it.
Thank you for this presentation. We can take some questions now in English. Si vous voulez poser des questions en français, c'est possible aussi.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a question about, because you mentioned that some of the content is based on real events. And I was wondering what type of real events is this channel actually investing in, or
yeah, sorry, it wasn't very clear from my presentation. So, so the show actually starts, and every episode of the show starts with this series is based on interviews with people from the finance industry that they interviewed in 2017. And so they had 4 people from the finance industry that told their stories. And so in the first season, it's only based on men's account. And on the second season, they decided to include also women. And so having also women, especially the wives of those characters, that that came forward because they called after the first season and said, well, we also want to tell our own story. And I didn't include that here, but the Norwegian Film Institute didn't fund the first season. So probably they didn't want to tell me the exact cause of this, but they hinted towards that, well, they didn't have any gender diversity at all, not in the creative team and not in the cast. And in the second season, they tried to focus more on women, and so probably that's why they funded the second season and not the first one. And also, it was very successful, so it was to make it even better in a way.
Thank you for this presentation. I do not want to watch that series. Exit that series, if I can make a wordplay. But I just wanted to know, you mentioned that so the strategy is to prioritize the platform, so have the show on the platform before making it to linear TV, right? I was wondering if that's something that is particular to Norway, because I found that, well, I'm also studying a public-funded platform, but it's the opposite. So they test without that much risk new talent or new kind of shows on their platform, and then if it's popular, it makes it to. So I was just wondering, what's your analysis on that to really like put? I mean, if you could say a little bit more about that.
So, which country are you studying?
Quebec.
Yeah.
Province.
Yeah. Well, it
depends on your perspective.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. So the people that I interviewed in NRK told me, well, they actually contrasted their strategies to prioritize the streaming platform to France, for example, or Spain, that hasn't done the same, and actually they are struggling to keep their streaming platforms and the public streaming platforms alive with certain failure, and that's part of the project, but that other people in the project are studying at the moment. Whereas here, what they do is they released Exit both on linear and on the streaming platform. But what they want to do is that they have audience studies and focus groups with audiences, and have a lot of qualitative analysis ahead to know if the content that they are going to produce is going to be successful on the streaming platform. And so if it's not going to be successful on the streaming platforms, that means that they don't produce it generally. But they do release it both on streaming and linear at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
While you were talking, there's a lot of example also in Quebec that's been prioritized, but it's always been made as in terms of all these questions of like gender and diversity. It's historically been like more of a testing platform, and then but like the more popular show also have that same structure that they're gonna try to have people to subscribe to the platform. Well, actually, it's a paid subscription, and it seems it's free.
So
Totally free
here the
platform,
platform is entirely free, and that's also something that in other countries they haven't. Maybe they don't have the means to do that. But here, like since it's the NRK is totally tax funded, both the linear and the streaming, and they joint everything. So the streaming is in the same industry in a way. And that's very much the strength of this platform, because they are trying to produce quality content but for free. So obviously people are going to be more attracted to the platform. And if they are, and you've seen also the platform, and they pay a lot of attention to how the platform looks like, and how much people will engage with it. So they're really, and I think it's also prioritizing streaming content and prioritizing a young audience in a way, because the linear TV is mostly older people that watch it, is also the strength of this model compared to other countries that focus more on linear TV, such as France or Spain. Or,
without any economic.
Exactly. They don't get so whatever however successful it is, they don't get money for it. But Exit did win the Série Mania in France when it was released in 2018 or 2019, and it was sold in many countries. But I think through public TV that, I don't know, I haven't really heard much from outside of Scandinavia, but in Scandinavia it was very popular as well.
Very interesting, thank you.